Hello. In today's video, we are going to go through some updates, clean out the back of my truck, and hold a little yard sale for things that I have been holding on to in storage, and meet my new friend Ron, who has a very inspiring story to tell.
Just looked at things. I said, unpleasant things will happen and can happen. But you don't have to allow those things that are unpleasant to affect your day or your mentality or perspective of your day.
So keep watching to enjoy another video from the road with Lex and Riot. Well, hello. You can probably tell we are no longer in Oregon. Now, as you can probably imagine, when we left Oregon, it was in a rush. Well, when we left our campsite in Oregon, where I had been living and working for the past 5 months, we left in a rush. So this is a hot, cluttered mess. So today we're going to work on decluttering. Now, before we get started on that, I just want to thank everyone for their kind critique and feedback on my diesel heater and solar power system installation videos. So no problem so far with the solar power system or the diesel heater. I have run the diesel heater for an extended period of time, like 3 hours or so, on a good amount of heat, and stupid or not, I did touch the exhaust pipe and it was hot, but it wasn't unbearable. So even though I'm still not really concerned with the way I have it installed, I did pick up a couple things. One, I got this 2000 degree Fahrenheit high heat paint. So I'm going to paint the area around the exhaust pipe. And you might say, hey Lex, this is really intended for metal. And I understand that. I talked to an older gentleman at the hardware store and discussed all the particulars, and he advised that I paint the area and the underside of the cargo trailer where the exhaust pipe doesn't touch but is close to. And he said that while it isn't specific for wood applications, he would still advise it, and he has used it on wood himself, and so I feel good about this. The other thing that I ordered and I'm going to install is a heat wrap. And if you're not familiar with it, what a heat shield or a heat wrap is, they're common in like your engine, but what it looks like is a thick ace bandage, and you soak it. It's got like fiberglass resin, I think, or something like that. Long story short, you wrap the exhaust pipe in it and it mitigates the heat that the exhaust pipe puts out to the surrounding area. So for instance, a lot of people will use something similar on the exhaust of a motorcycle, so if their leg was to hit the exhaust, they don't burn themselves. So between this and the heat wrap, I think I'll have very good peace of mind, and I want to thank everyone for their suggestions. And even though there isn't currently a problem, certainly no reason to wait for one. So thank you again, and the heat shield will be sent general delivery to the post office along with my ballot. So look forward to a video on how I ensure that I vote while on the road. But for now, let's clean out the back of the truck. Now, there is a side benefit to me cleaning and decluttering this. While we came to this camp spot, we ran into someone that Robert met last spring, who ironically is also from Wisconsin originally and also was a camp host in Oregon this summer, who was also evacuated due to fires. So anyway, his name is Ron. Now, last spring, while they were traveling through the Eastern Sierras, Ron's van broke down, and he has an amazing story of courage and tenacity that hopefully I can convince him to get on camera. But long story short, he had to start over in his new vehicle, a station wagon, and what I'm hoping is that some things that I've been hauling around and not using, he can benefit from. You know, since being on the road, especially in the last 6 months, I have made more close friendships in such a short amount of time. And there are these really interesting fluid relationships where we might be thick as thieves for 2 weeks and then not see each other. Or like me and Robert are traveling together, and I haven't had this much ease in making friendships since like kindergarten, first grade, before people, I don't know, start dividing. I am really thankful for everyone I've been meeting, and I'm excited to hopefully have some of them benefit from my decluttering and to continue forging these really great relationships. So, the point of this little mini monologue is that if you're worried about being lonely on the road, I have to say this is the least lonely that I have been since I can remember, since like kindergarten, first grade, where you're just frickin' friends with everyone, and if you don't want to be, you just ignore them and you don't share your blocks. It's amazing and fulfilling. So I highly recommend not being afraid of being lonely. You won't be lonely. Let's go see what I have for sale in my yard sale. I have a graphite baseball bat. I don't need that. I have other things. That was an awesome book, but I don't need to carry it around. I have an extra brush. Lots of Reflectix. I have this that I thought I would use, never did, a backpacking tent. These things are awesome because they are like window screens that you just fit over your car. So I'm going to see if Ron can't benefit from that. This propane adapter I've never used. A coupler lock, which isn't that great, but my friends over there have a trailer, so maybe they can benefit. An extra can of tick repellent. This is the lining for window screening. I had to repair the screens in my truck, so that's left over. And I have just a stupid amount of bungees, so here's a hodgepodge of bungees. So let's see if anyone wants my junk. Ron, thank you though for agreeing to be on camera for a moment. So how long have you been on the road?
Well, since it will be 1 year, October the 6th, next month.
Happy anniversary.
And thank you.
What made you decide to be a nomad?
Well, I woke up on one of my birthdays that just passed, not this July, but the July before. And a thought came and said, Ron, you are, only reason why you're working, said, is because you're paying on your car and you're paying your car insurance. And I said, well, you're absolutely right. But before that, I was looking at Bob Wells' channels, and person that really inspired me was Crystal Banner. When I saw Crystal Banner, and I think it's Not Your Natural Mama's Van or something like that. And when Bob Wells was doing the tour, when she opened the door, I like blew me away. Pretty color schemes and everything, and I said, "Oh my God!" Not because she's a female, but I said this: if she can do it, I said I can do this myself. When I began to realize that it's possible, and so in the meantime, I started looking for a van, and I had saved a pretty good sum of money for a nice van. I bought a small Astro van. I insulated the Astro van. I started going on, still looking at Bob Wells, and I started going on YouTube and just putting in conversions for, I had a 1999 Astro van, and then they started coming up, and I began to see different layouts, and I saw one that was workable for me. So I duplicated it, but I duplicated it, believe it or not, I went makeshift, and I decided that I was going to travel, and I went out to Prompt, Nevada. And I was leading a little caravan away and going up a mountainside. Oh, really? Don't worry about it. Over the mountain, and I lost acceleration. I started look at the instruments, and it said 9 volts of battery. So I pulled over and coasted a pretty good ways. Kind of a little scary. Uh, your wheels locked, steering wheel, you can go right off the side of a mountain or something, you know what I mean? A little scary. And I'm coasting it in and stepping on the brakes because there's nothing's on, so you're kind of pushing on your brakes enough to so it will slow it down and eventually stop. So I thought it was a battery alternator. I had it towed to a small city. Then the mechanic at that city says, no, it's not the alternator. Started it up, made a crazy noise, had it towed to another city. And at that city found out that it needed a rod started to knocking. So it needed another engine. Well, I looked at that, thought about it, and realized that that wasn't profitable. Stuck a lot of money in it. But I realized if I put a brand new engine in it, then I had 3 choices. Either go to the boneyard and get one, and it uh, wasn't practical because you didn't know what you were getting. If they rebuilt it, there's a possibility that the parts that wasn't rebuilt could have been damaged, and that's going to cause problems. And if I got a brand new engine, which they suggested, and they gave me the price of what they would put it in for and all of that. So I thought about it and realized, I said, well, it only had 115,000 miles on it. And I said, well, if I put a brand new engine, I said, with 115,000 miles on the transmission, there's a possibility that I'm going to be needing some work done to the transmission. I couldn't see myself even purchasing another transmission or even getting it rebuilt. So, the one car lot in a small town, and I bought myself a station wagon, a Volvo station wagon, the older model, had 91,000 miles. That was an incentive, and so that's what I'm driving in today.
Now, the most fascinating thing I think about this story is you lived out what most people have as their worst fear. Their home on wheels
Hmm.
goes kaput.
Okay.
And I think that's where a lot of people would want to just quit, or they would get, that again is like the worst fear scenario. You have such a good attitude about it, and you just kept pushing forward. Where do you get that mindset from where you just keep moving forward, or did you have doubts, or
No, it took me 5 days for everything for everything to go through what it had to go through the process. No, I've always looked at things. I said, unpleasant things will happen and can happen, but you don't have to allow those things that are unpleasant to affect your day or your mentality or perspective of your day. If I'm saying I'm having a good day, well, let the bottom fall out. My conversation is not going to change. My confession is still going to say, I'm having a good day. And so that's the way I began to look at that. People like, I say, well, people say, well, for instance, your gas tank. They'll say, well, mine is half empty. And I say, well, mine is half full. So it's the way you look at things. And I try not to be pessimistic. I'm always trying to be optimistic. I'm always trying to be encouraging, and I'm always being encouraged. So, by myself, you know what I'm trying to say? Something I have to stir me up. I have to keep me going. I have to keep me positive, and when things aren't going the way that I might like them to go. But I realize just be patient. It's changed. The minute that you change your perspective, it begins to change. It's a process. You just go through it, and it turns out to your favor. I started out this life not to quit. I started out this life to be on it. Now, I grant it. So, one thing that I will encourage any newbie or newcomer, and that is to at least have this emergency fund. Now, if I hadn't had some emergency fund, then it would have been a little more difficult. But by me having some emergency fund, I was able to, like, you've seen those old Jack in the boxes, or little, when we were coming up, they had the little blow up thing where you could punch it. Well, that's the way it was with me. Or you take a ball, beach ball, you know, you can push that ball on the water, but if it slips, it's going to come back up. And that's the way I look at myself. Something might try to hold me down. I'm not. I'm resourceful, resilient enough to, if it gives me a little opening, going to the top. Got to do it.
That is, I think, such a good frame of mind and so inspiring to so many people. And
thank you.
Your story is so inspiring, especially the way that you frame your mind and frame your attitude. So thank you for sharing that. I mean, it inspired me, so I appreciate you allowing me to film it and sharing it with everybody.
I thank you.
Oh. Well, we can thank each other, Ron.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, thanks. Mm-hmm. I hope you all enjoyed hearing Ron's story of tenacity and courage and basically living out the worst case scenario for any nomad and still having such a spectacular state of mind and attitude. I hope it inspired you as much as it inspired me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you desire, and we will see you next time.